The Skin of Justice, the true story of Big Nose George Parrott, Rawlins, Wyoming, 1881. The wind rolled across the empty plains carrying dust, judgment in equal measure. Out here, there wasn't much between a man and the law, just his reputation, his luck, and the size of his gun barrel. George Parrott had both luck and a gun, but the law had a longer memory. They called him Big Nose George, a name he wore like a scar. He'd been a rustler, a stagecoach robber, and the kind of man who'd shoot first and figure out who he killed later. In the late 1870s, he rode with a small band of outlaws who made their living ambushing shipments and stealing cattle across Wyoming territory. But one job, just one, sealed his fate: the train robbery that went wrong. In August 1878, Parrott and his gang learned that a Union Pacific pay train was moving gold and cash through Medicine Bow. They planned to derail it by loosening the tracks. But luck, George's fickle companion, turned her back that night. Before they could set the ambush, two lawmen, Deputy Sheriff Robert Widowfield and Union Pacific Detective Tip Vincent, caught up to them near Elk Mountain. The meeting was short and bloody. The outlaws opened fire. Both lawmen fell dead, their bodies left in the sagebrush to rot beneath the prairie sun. From that day forward, Big Nose George wasn't just a thief, he was a murderer. The Wyoming Territory wanted him alive or dead, and a bounty was posted that drew every would-be hero and desperate drifter into the hunt. Years on the run. For nearly 3 years, Parrott moved through the frontier like a ghost. He robbed, drank, gambled, and bragged too much. The West was full of men who'd done worse, but George's mistake was believing he could outrun his name. One night in Miles City, Montana, whiskey loosened his tongue. He bragged about killing the lawman near Elk Mountain, loudly enough for a bartender to remember. Word spread faster than a horse's breath in winter. Within weeks, he was caught, shackled, and marched under armed guard back to Rawlins, Wyoming, to face the gallows, the trial, and the taunting. In early 1881, George stood trial in a small courthouse surrounded by angry townsfolk. The murdered deputy's widow sat in the front row, veiled in black. The verdict came swift: guilty of murder. The sentence: death by hanging. As the date drew near, George grew desperate. He was kept in a small cell beneath the jailer's house, chains on his ankles, one small window high above. But the man who'd survived deserts and gunfights wasn't going to die behind a locked door. On March the 22nd, 1881, he attacked the jailer, Robert Rankin, during a routine meal. He bashed Rankin's head with his own leg shackles and nearly escaped. But Mrs. Rankin, hearing the struggle, grabbed a pistol and fired. The bullet missed, but it stopped George in his tracks. Reinforcements came running. The town's patience snapped. That night, a mob gathered outside the jail. Miners, ranchers, even mothers clutching lanterns. They'd had enough of trials and paperwork. They broke through the door, dragged George into the cold Wyoming night, and marched him to a telegraph pole near the Union Pacific tracks. He begged, cried, cursed. They didn't listen. The rope went around his thick neck, and someone kicked away the barrel. The rope broke once. He fell, gasping. They strung him up again. This time, it held. As the dawn rose, the man called Big Nose George hung limp and still, swaying in the prairie wind. Justice in Rawlins was done frontier style. The lynching of Big Nose George. You'd think that was the end, but this is where the story becomes something darker, something that still makes Wyoming historians flinch. When his body was cut down, local doctors Thomas Magee and John Osborne asked for it, claiming they wanted to study the brain of a criminal. They took it to the back of their office, dissected it, and then, for reasons lost to time or madness, flayed the skin from his thighs and chest. From that human hide, they crafted a pair of shoes and a medical bag. Dr. Osborne would later become governor of Wyoming. And yes, he wore those shoes to his inauguration. George's skull cap became an ashtray used in the doctor's office for years. The stranger in the museum. Nearly a century later, in 1950, workers digging near the old Osborne home unearthed a rusted whiskey barrel filled with human bones and a skull with the top sawn off. DNA testing decades later confirmed it. Big Nose George had been found. Today, his skull cap and those morbid shoes sit on display at the Carbon County Museum in Rawlins, a relic of the wildest days of frontier justice. Big Nose George Parrott's story is more than the tale of an outlaw. It's a reminder of how the Old West blurred the line between justice and vengeance, civilization and savagery. Men who chased lawbreakers became monsters in their own way. And somewhere, under the dry Wyoming soil, the wind still carries the whisper of his name. Big Nose George, the outlaw who died twice, once on a rope, and again when men tried to make meaning out of his skin.